non-VTubers don't have to do, right? Uh, Setting the right parameters for your face so it tracks you better. I'm like making a bunch of faces. That's why I was quiet for the podcast listeners. Um, Hello, I'm Mellow. Welcome back to the Mellow Friends podcast. Do you mind if I ask you a question aside from that one I just asked? What is a VTuber? I am, but I'm just a small pixel of the larger picture that is VTubing. Since the mid 2010s, VTubers have made their mark on the internet as faceless content creators with faces. Well, if their design has a face. You can get really creative sometimes. Anyways, not the point. By using digital avatars as stand ins for their IRL counterparts, VTubers can create content just like anyone else online. For the most part, that is. As someone who's been a VTuber for 3 years, almost four now, I've realized that VTubing has its fair share of pros and cons. That is exactly what I talk about in today's podcast episode. And I can't wait for you to hear me make my case for why you should or shouldn't be a VTuber. At the end of the day, all that really matters is making the best choice for yourself. But before we get into that, here's a word from our sponsors. Me. Man, I really should do a face reveal. Hey you! Yeah, you! Have you ever wanted to be responsible for a VTuber's face reveal? Well, now you can be, thanks to Mellow's TwitchCon Donathon. That's right, starting April 1st, you can be responsible for the end of this VTuber's career, revealing his face and getting him to TwitchCon San Diego in the process. No, this is not a joke. On April 1st, make sure you tune in to twitch.tv/mellowclub. Huh, weird. I don't think that was a normal ad. Anyways, welcome to episode 5 of the podcast. We're here, 5 episodes in. Huh? We haven't tapped out or quit or anything. Maybe next thing we can work on is a consistent upload schedule. Anyways, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about VTubing, not how to be a VTuber. Maybe we save that for a separate video, maybe not a podcast episode. Since this is mainly me talking, I would want to give visuals for that. And, visuals aren't usually the best for podcasts. I guess it is a video podcast. Anyways, today we're going to be exploring the pros and cons of being a VTuber to help you decide if it's something worth pursuing. I have been a VTuber for almost 4 years now. I know a thing or two about VTubing. I know a few things about VTubing. Hopefully, I would hope I at least know some things after 3 or 4 years of doing it. Um, and I really want to explore why you should or shouldn't pursue VTubing, because I'm gonna be honest, it's not for everyone. It's not. It really isn't. It's for me. Thankfully, I'm glad I found it. Um, but it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. So hopefully this can help you sort of think about some things you might not have thought about when debating on should I be a VTuber or shouldn't I be a VTuber. I hope you create content. I hope you are a creative. And I would love for you to be a VTuber. Truly. The more the merrier. I think most VTubers, I don't know. I'm not gonna speak for all VTubers. A lot of the VTubers I've talked to and know, um, want everyone to at least try VTubing. We think it's a really really cool and fun way to express yourself and to create content, and we would love for you to join the VTuber Nation. Just kidding. I don't know if that's like a thing. I I don't have my VTuber Nation citizenship. I'm just a VTuber, okay? Um, and I hope one day you become one if you want to. If you think it's best for you. Hopefully this helps you decide if it's best for you or not best for you. Okay? Okay, sweet. So, before we can get started, for anyone who's watching and doesn't know what VTubing is, let me just give like a super short, brief description uh, of it. Okay, so VTubing is short for virtual YouTubing. That's where it's got its start. That's where it's originated from, and basically VTubing is where content creators use 2D, 3D, or PNG animated avatars to represent themselves. We usually call these avatars models, like, oh, I got a live 2D model, I got a 3D model, I got a PNG tuber model. Um, those are usually the terms we use. So if you hear me say a model, just know I'm talking about the avatar, I guess. The character you see before you is a model. Sheesh, sheesh, a model, sheesh. Uh, sorry. But yeah, that's the term we use. We use model. You can use character, you can use avatar, whatever you want. But but for the most part, we use model. Okay. Okay. Cool. Uh, hopefully you got that. Hopefully. So yeah, VTubing started around 2016 in Japan, and has become a worldwide phenomenon. You know, this niche is definitely starting to become very mainstream. It really, really is. And so a lot of people are, sort of paying attention to it, maybe looking towards it, and very curious, like, oh, how do I get into it? How do I start doing that? Where can I do that? How easy is it to do that? How hard is it to do that? Um, and so this is not necessarily how to do it, it's should you do it? That's what the concept of today's episode is, okay? Okay, sweet. So I want to start with the pros, the positives of being a VTuber, of why you should become a VTuber, of why I became a VTuber. And I think it can be really, really useful. And then we're gonna go into the negatives of being a VTuber, and then after that, we're gonna go over some people who should maybe really, I think, be a VTuber. People who would love VTubing, and people who, uh, you know, might not love VTubing, who might not be the best fit. Again, at the end of the day, this is your decision. This is your choice. So do what's best for you and do what interests you the most. Okay. Sweet. So, pros of becoming a VTuber. For me, the number one pro, privacy. That for me was the best pro. Um I'm going to be honest, I'm a very shy, reserved person. I enjoy my privacy. I'm the type of person who, like, there's a party going on. Sure, maybe I'll go, but like I'll be sitting on the couch, petting the pets, talking to like the people I already know. Type, that's me. That's me. I enjoy my privacy. I enjoy my personal space. And so VTubing allows you to maintain that privacy, to remain somewhat anonymous online. Because, in case you didn't know, you don't have to show your real face. You don't have to, right? And by not showing your face, you're protecting your personal privacy. Now, I know someone can be like, "Oh, I know this VTuber's real face. This VTuber's face leaked and stuff like that." And those are things we might go into during the cons portion of VTubing. But for the most part, um, this not having to show your face allows you to protect your personal privacy, and it also allows you to create a safe space, right, for yourself, especially if you're introverted like me, right, or if you just prefer to stay anonymous, right. I was a very, very shy person when I first started, much more shy than I am now. Now, I am a yapper. You can't get me to stop talking, but when I first started, I was very quiet. um and I've slowly come out of my shell. Uh, I don't have a shell. That's a metaphor. But I've slowly become, more of, I guess, myself. I've grown into who I am now over the course of the almost 4 years of VTubing. If that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. But when I first got into VTubing, very introverted, very shy. Literally, my branding, my like pitch was, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Mellow, the shy shadow," right? And that's grown and that's evolved to, "Hi, I'm Mellow, the energetic shadow leader," right? Things change, things change. But I think that privacy was what initially drew me to VTubing. When I first started, around the time I first started, 2021, there was a lot of hate raids going on Twitch. There was a lot of like negative targeting and like just like bad press of like VTubers, not even VTubers, streamers, right? Because that's mainly what I focus on, streaming. But there was a lot of like news of like streamers being doxxed and like being followed and being stalked and like all these things, right? And as someone who is pretty anxious, I was like, I want to do this, but I'm also scared and anxious about it because I don't want to show my face. I don't want people to find out where I live, things like that. So I started with what some people would call a PNG tuber. Now, I didn't really know I was PNG tubing at the time. I was using a free Bongo Cat cam. If you don't know what it is, basically a Bongo Cat cam. Just picture that little cat that plays the bongos. You've seen it. I'll put a picture up for those who are watching the video. But if you're not watching and you're just listening to the podcast, it's a bongo cat. Just picture a little cat that likes to play the bongos. Right, I used a little image of that, and it would open and close its mouth and blink when it wanted to blink randomly, and it would basically act as my face, if that makes sense. I didn't want to show my real face, so I had this little virtual little bongo cat cam to represent me on camera, because I, at least personally, when I consume content, I like to sort of see who I'm talking to, who I'm watching, etc., right? And so for me, VTubing was a way to show my air quotes face without sharing my face, you know? Hopefully, Hopefully you're picking up what I'm putting down. But yeah, basically having this avatar on screen that was able to represent me was a huge drawing factor point for me. It's really what made me decide, yes, like this is for me. This wasn't made for me, but this is for me. And so that's why I chose to become a VTuber. But there are many, many more reasons why anyone can choose to become a VTuber. I believe VTubing allows people to have a lot of creative freedom. Like a lot. Like VTubers, no joke, are some of the most creative people ever. And I'm not talking about me. I feel like I'm, yeah, I'm doing a podcast. How creative is that? Okay. But there are a lot of VTubers who are super, super creative, right? A lot of artists love being VTubers. You'll notice that a huge chunk of the VTuber community, they are artists. And I'm not just talking about like drawing art, digital art, painting art, musical art, There are VTubers who will do whole dance routines, right? There are VTubers who do like creativity through science, right? Through STEM, like coding and like all these cool things. Like VTubers, okay, very creative in my opinion. I think most content creators are creative, right? Because you got to be a creative to create. But but VTubing is different from I'm just gonna throw out Bob, right? Bob is a YouTuber who like does art and stuff and like cool and they're creative, right? But Bob is Bob. I love Bob. I'm subscribed to Bob. I watch every single Bob video I can. But then you'll have Rob, the VTuber, right? And it's like, okay, they're doing everything Bob is doing, but also they're like a super cool dragon from outer space who has this crazy XYZ character, persona, whatever you want. Because as a VTuber, you can technically be anything. Um, right? And so obviously both are good. Both are good. I love both. But there's like a little bit of extra creativity with Rob, the outer space dragon VTuber, you know? Uh Not to say that Bob can never become a VTuber. Who knows? Maybe Rob is Bob, on an alt account. Who knows? Um but yeah, you're able to create a character essentially, right? Me, the character you see before you, my name is Mellow, right? This character's name is Mellow. I go by Mellow online. It's sort of weird. The lines are blurred. Okay, I'm not gonna tell you my real IRL name, my real life name. Sorry, but you can call me Mellow. I go by Mellow, and the character you see on screen, right? They're Mellow. They are the moon's shadow. They're literal, embodiment of an eclipse. They have a whole backstory and like lore and like there's storytelling that can be done through VTubing, right? Like this is a whole original character with a whole original backstory and history that is something that isn't really seen with non VTuber audiences or content creators. Um, if that makes sense. Hopefully, I'm making sense, but a lot of VTubers tend to build a unique persona or character, because if you don't have to show your face and you can show anything you want, then you can really get creative with that. And so VTubers tend to get creative with that. It's really really cool. I personally enjoy seeing, reading, or learning about other VTuber character lore, like other VTubers lore, character lore. It's cool. It's a nice form of storytelling, and you can really get creative with it. So aside from being able to have privacy, you also have that creative freedom to create a character, And if you want, VTubers sometimes will embody that character. Like me, I'm gonna be honest. I'm me at the end of the day. Like I'm Mellow, but also I'm me, IRL me, if that makes sense. I can't really act like that. Like I can't pretend to be a character 24/7. It's just not, for me, something I didn't want to do. But some VTubers do. They stay in character. They act, they'll role play as their character the whole time, and they're really committed to it. It's really, really cool and creative. I think it's creative. And so that's something that's really cool. You don't have to do that. Not all VTubers have to have crazy lore. Not all VTubers need to be a dragon from outer space. There are VTubers who are just human, you know. And so it's really the creative freedom to do what you want. You don't have to adhere to these rules of air quotes rules. They're not even rules, but you don't have to do what other VTubers are doing. You can do what you want as a VTuber. And I think that creative freedom to do what you want or not do what you want is really, really cool. Now, another point is an appeal to a wide audience. Okay. Now, this is more the behind the scenes networking numbers game stuff of VTubing. But VTubers do have a pre-established audience, right? Right? Like with anything. Technically there's a pre-established audience for, let's bring back Bob. For Bob the YouTuber, right? Like Bob the YouTuber streams and creates videos on, I don't know, cooking, right? So boom, there's a cooking audience, right? There are people who love watching cooking videos. So there is a pre-established, you know, cooking audience, right? But if you're a VTuber who also cooks, right, then you're appealing to that cooking audience, but also just by the, mere fact that you are a VTuber, you will appeal to the VTuber community and like culture, right? And a huge part of that is the anime community as well, right? A huge chunk of the VTubing community is a fan of anime. They just are related, right? Not all VTubers look like anime characters, but a huge audience is sort of there. Like there's an audience. Now, whether you're appealing to that audience, whether you're doing good to the audience, that's a whole different thing. Don't think just because you're a VTuber, you'll instantly, get all the VTuber audience people to like you. But it will sort of, make it easier for you to appeal to them, if that makes sense. You have a appeal to a wider audience compared to someone who isn't a VTuber. And again, whether that's something you care about, if that's all you care about, that's something to be aware of. You have a chance to build an international audience. Like I mentioned earlier, VTubing started in Japan, but it's gone worldwide. So, that's something that I think is a pro. It is a pro, right? I don't view that as a negative. You might view it as a negative, but being able to appeal to a wider audience, I think, is a relatively good thing. And it's a thing that comes with VTubing, right? Um, Another pro that I think is cool and that not everyone I feel like is aware of. Like those who know. If you know, you know. The um entry barrier for VTubing is very low at first, okay? It's very easy to get started with a basic avatar, right? Anyone can do it, truly. Anyone can be a VTuber. I firmly believe that. If you have a phone, if you're able to watch this right now, if you're watching this on your phone on your laptop, on your computer, okay, on your console, okay, you're able to go live, okay, okay. You're able to be a VTuber. You're able to create content. Now, will it be the content you want to create and all that stuff? I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what you want to create, so I can't say that, right? Um, Truly, I can't. But the entry barrier is very low. It's very low. You can find free VTube models. You can find free PNG tube models. You can make your own free 3D model. And this is not a tutorial on how to do that stuff. Maybe I'll make one of those later. But with some research, you can become a VTuber very easily. Um, Now if you want like a super fancy original model with all the bells and whistles, it's gonna be a little more difficult. But to get started, right, to just start doing it, very easy, very easy in my opinion. Literally one or two YouTube tutorial videos, and you'll know how to do it. Set like truly, the content's out there. The tutorials are out there. You can definitely do it very easily. Um, and so yeah, that's another positive in my opinion. uh, Another positive is the potential for income. Right now, this positive is not necessarily a VTubing positive, so that's why it's a little lower on the order of things, right? But technically, anyone who creates content, right, if they do it enough, if they do it well enough, if they do it consistently enough, has the potential to make money, right? Are you gonna be a billionaire right off the bat? No, I don't think I know of any billionaire VTubers. Maybe there are, I don't know, but you technically can make potential income. You can. Now it'll take a lot of work to get to that point, and it'll take time and XYZ. But you can, get revenue from YouTube and Twitch ads, or Twitch donos, subs, sponsorships, etc. And there are a lot of agencies that are really, well, not really. Like, they are VTuber agencies. They work specifically with VTubers, offering contracts and supports, and essentially it's becoming a VTuber is essentially a job for some VTubers now, right? Especially if they work with a corporation, right? Versus being like independent. And so yeah, potential income is a very possible thing that happens for VTubers. It just is. Um and having some spare change, some extra cash for, I don't know, whatever it is you need, can be cool. It can be cool. So yeah, that's definitely a positive. And I guess one positive, which again, these last two positives, the reason I'm saying them last is not because they're like bad. Like, they're positives, but they're not VTuber exclusive positives, if that makes sense. They're just positives that come with being a VTuber, but you can also not be a VTuber and get these positives. Is community and fan engagement, right? Any streamer, any content creator can build a community and have fans engage with their stuff, right? Anyone can technically do that. Anyone who creates content, right? Anyone who puts himself out there can technically do that. But yeah, it is a positive of VTubing as well. You are able to build a loyal fan base through your interactions. I'm very grateful. I think something that is not that it's not common for other content creators, but more common for VTubers, is fan art, right? Like, fan art is something that's like pretty big. I'm very grateful for the fan art I get and things like that. And not saying that like non VTubers can't get fan art, because definitely they can. But it's definitely like, because the art is already so ingrained within the VTuber community, it's just more likely to happen, in my opinion. You know, it just sort of makes more sense logically. Um, but yeah, overall, like, I feel like those are the main positives. Again, it's privacy, creative freedom, the ability to appeal to a wider audience, the low entry barrier, the potential for income, and the community and fan engagement. These are all positives of VTubing. They're all really, really great things. Now, some of them aren't VTubing exclusive. You can have the potential for income and have a community if you're not a VTuber, but these are pros of VTubing. Now, the hard part. Now, the hard part. Okay, this is where look. I love VTubing. I love VTubing, but it's not always great. It's not always amazing, right? Like with everything, there's some good and there's some bad. And so these are not necessarily the bads, but the cons. Some of the things that some people don't always recognize when they get started. Something I definitely didn't recognize when I got started into VTubing. And something that might, sort of make people not want to VTube. So, if any of these are like hard nopes, like I say these cons and you're like, no, not worth it, then maybe VTubing is not for you. And that's okay. That's totally okay. But yeah, so the first con. To me, this isn't really a con, but for a lot of people it is. Okay? The time and effort that is required for being a VTuber is a lot. It's a lot. It does take a lot of time, it does take a lot of effort, especially if you're starting off by yourself. Like if you have money and you can hire editors and stuff like that, obviously, then, you know, you have more time to do other things, right? But when it's just you, you have to script videos, you have to film videos, you have to edit videos, you have to upload videos, you have to stream, you have to like manage your socials, you have to advertise, create weekly schedules, right? You're doing things by yourself, especially right off the bat, for the most part. And that takes a lot of time. That takes a lot of effort. Uh, it's a balancing act of time and effort. If you're able to not invest a lot of time, then make sure what little time you can invest, you're putting in a lot of effort. If you're not able to put in a lot of effort, make sure you're putting in more time, right? Whatever's best for you, I think is the best case scenario, right? You know your schedule better than anyone else. And so what you can do with your time is sort of limited to how much time you have and how much effort you can put into it, right? Um, but yeah, it's a commitment. It's a time commitment, a big time commitment, especially if you want to be consistent. If you want to stream once a year and then you'll show up again like randomly and stuff like that, another year, whenever, no schedule, that's fine. You're doing it for fun. You're doing it for a hobby. But this, does take a lot of time and effort, and for some people it can be draining, right? Especially if they're not having fun doing it. Um it can make someone feel like content creation is a chore. And, most chores are boring. So that is a con. It does take a lot of time and effort. Another con, right, is there is a certain level of technical skill that you will need and some equipment you will need, right? Now, most of this can be circumvented, avoided, right? Like in terms of the skill, like you don't have to know all this right now. You can learn it as you go, through tutorials, a lot of YouTube tutorials. But technically, there is some technical skill that goes into setting up your avatars, right? And live streaming itself, if you're gonna live stream, requires a certain level of technical expertise, right? Like what VTubing software are you gonna use? Are you gonna stream with OBS, Streamlabs OBS? Meld, I think, is getting very popular. And where are you gonna stream these things? You have to learn how to do. And if it's just you doing these things, then you have to learn how to do it yourself. Now, obviously, YouTube is an amazing place for learning how to do these things. When I first started, I cannot tell you the amount of tutorials I watched. The amount of tutorials is literally, if I didn't have tutorials, I probably would have given up. I'm gonna be honest. If I didn't have tutorials telling me like this is how you set up OBS, this is how you link your phone to VTube Studio for face tracking. This is right, things like that. And also there is technically some cost of equipment, right? Now you can technically start VTubing from your phone. Like you can do it with your phone if you have a phone. Now, obviously, the type of VTubing you're gonna do and how well the quality is and stuff is sort of determined by your equipment. but I am always one to advocate for using what you have. Okay, using what you have. Okay, to start off, and then if you want to use more, invest more, do that later. But to get started, I always recommend using what you have. Okay, because eventually when you want to upgrade your equipment, right, if you want to get a better face tracking camera, if you want to get a better microphone, if you want to upgrade to a different software that costs a little bit more but like performs a little better, you want to buy a model that's custom, that costs money. If you want to you know get overlays, you want to get emotes, you want to get alerts done, and you aren't doing them yourself, right? Like if you commission artists to do those for you, that is gonna cost some money. Now, you don't need to have all that stuff, and there are free options for a lot of the things I mentioned, right? Like there are free overlays, there's free background music, there's free emotes, people like there's free stuff, right? But I understand eventually, or maybe if you're someone who wants to start off right off the bat with very customized V2 model and like branding and things like that, that is going to cost money. All right, I'm not going to beat around the bush. That does cost money. Okay. Now some like asterisks. If you're an artist, right, you can do all that stuff yourself. You can do it yourself. It'll take a little bit more time and effort. Back to the first con, right? Right. But you can do it yourself. You can do a lot of this stuff yourself. Um, but if you're like me, who's kind of like, I'm learning how to draw, I'm learning how to do art, but I'm not amazing at it. Sometimes it costs money. It just does. And if that investment is not worth it to you, it's not worth it to you. That's a huge con, and I understand that completely, right? Like someone who's not a VTuber, right? They can just film with their phone and boom, that's it. They'll upload the video like that. And if they don't want to edit it, they don't edit it, and the audio might whatever. But that is a lot easier to do than, okay, I want to have a custom model, so I either have to commission one or learn how to make one myself. And sometimes for some people that's a hard nope. That's a hard nope. So technical skill and equipment um are definitely things that are a con, you know? Uh, so yeah. Now, another con is something that I think can be a con for any content creator. Um, but I'm just bringing it up because technically it is a con of VTubing, right? The pressure to perform and stay relevant. Yeah, I know, I know. Like I said, this can apply to all forms of content creation, all content creators, anyone who creates something to be consumed by the public, sort of has this like pressure, right? If like, oh man, I need to get this many views, I need to hit these numbers, XYZ, and I have to be entertaining 24/7. Or like whenever I'm live, whenever I'm on screen, I have to be entertaining, right? I had to stay on top of the latest trends, play all the games that are, popping and everything. Um, right? That pressure can get to people. That pressure can get to people. And so, a con is like having to sort of like find a balance, right? To perform under that pressure without burning out. Um it's something that like really can, cause a lot of people to quit. A lot of people will, start VTubing and they will expect a certain amount of growth. They'll see like, oh, this person blew up overnight. I'm not blowing up overnight. Like, what am I doing wrong? It's me. I'm the problem. Or it's my content, or people just don't like me and stuff. And like all those negative thoughts will make content creation honestly not fun. Not fun. Um and so that can be a con. Not VTuber exclusive, but this next bit is sort of the VTuber exclusive portion of the pressure to perform and stay relevant. So I mentioned it briefly, but there are some VTubers who choose to stay in character to perform, right? Like I'll be like, hey guys, I'm the moon shadow, I'm Mellow, but I'm also just a guy. Like, I'm not afraid to talk about it like that. Like, but there's some VTubers who are like, hey, I am the king of this kingdom, and I'm always the king, and I'm gonna stay in character all the time, right? And so if you're expected to perform a character 24/7, um it can really sort of like lead to like, oh, okay, like am I gonna like you know how method am I gonna get with it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like you're performing, right? If you're staying in character, you're performing, right? And so you have this pressure of like, don't slip up. I had a really bad day today, but I have to be like, the king who's happy and cheerful and stuff, or like the king who constantly speaks with a deep voice that isn't my normal register, and now my voice is fried. If that makes sense. Basically, it's like an extra, added level of stress. Like, oh, I can't leak anything. I can't accidentally say like, oh, I have two dogs named George and Lundy because I'm the king of the castle. I have a noble steed and a dragon, or XYZ. You can't talk about your hard day at work, at a grocery store because you're a king of a castle. You don't work at a grocery store. You know what I mean? So for some VTubers, there is that extra added layer of pressure. Um, Now, again, if you go into VTubing, it's your choice if you want to, remain in character all the time or not. You can sort of choose to or not to. I chose not to. But those who choose to will have that extra little bit of pressure. And sort of, I think this is sort of leads into the next bit, or sort of goes hand in hand with it. Is there is sometimes a lot of conversation behind the scenes of like character versus creator identity, right? Like me, I'm pretty open with my creator identity aside from like showing myself, right? Like Mellow's a character, you know, but then I'll be like, yeah, guys, like today I went to the optometrist and I had to spend like, I don't know, like 400 plus dollars on glasses, man. It was a pain. That's a lot of money. Oh man, it was, and like, boom, that's how I found my balance, right? A con for some people is like having to even find a balance, right? Like creating an avatar with a persona, is gonna like, cause some conflict with like your real life identity a little bit. I'm not saying you're gonna have an identity crisis, maybe you might, I don't know, but um it's definitely something to consider, right? Like, what do I share? What do I not share? How do I be myself and be this character? Um, you know, how do I create content that is authentically me and maintain this brand, which a character who isn't IRL me, that's something that can be a con for a lot of VTubers. Now, I would argue, or I would advocate for, right? Not really an argument, but I would advocate for, even if you are a VTuber, just be yourself, be genuinely yourself. I think that is the best, not only for your own amounts of stress, but also for the audience. Now this is more of a personal thing, not really a con, but I personally believe that like, my community, my audience, they sort of appreciate the like, me being genuine, me talking very candidly about things I want to talk about because I'm me. Mellow is me. Wait, am I Mellow? You guys see the identity crisis there? Like a little bit? Mellow's me. Mellow's an extension of me. That's how I view Mellow. Um, you know, some people will really become their character though. And sometimes that's like a bad thing. Like imagine a method actor who's like a gaslighting, male manipulator, egotistical type of guy, and it's like, oh, why do you gotta method act that? Like that's kind of crazy. Uh right? I don't know if that makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense. I hope it makes sense. It makes sense to me. But yeah, having to find a balance of the character and the creator's identity is something that is sort of a lot for some people. It is a lot. So that is a con. Another con is, and I think this is something that people who are in the VTuber community or a part of it are aware of, and sometimes they are a part of the problem. But this con is toxicity and harassment. Okay, now I'm gonna be honest. As a male VTuber, I face this a lot less than my female VTuber counterparts or my non-binary VTuber counterparts or XYZ. Um, right? And I do face some like a different way. But basically, VTubers, because they're faceless, will often get targeted, by online trolls. And, sometimes they'll receive weird criticism. And, honestly, sometimes they'll get disturbing fan behavior that a non VTuber won't get. Uh, so, there are a lot of female VTubers out there who are streaming probably because they love the privacy of it, right? Within the content creation sphere, female content creators are unjustly targeted a lot by like stalkers and like creepy people, right? People who do horrible things, right? And sometimes female VTubers will get targeted by trolls. They'll get the occasional, oh, you're just a fat man living in your mom's basement and you're actually 42 and stuff. Stop pretending to be an anime girl or whatever, right? And, a lot of that harassment is something that like just doesn't exist outside the VTubing sphere. Now, you not saying there isn't toxicity and trolls and harassment outside of VTubing. There is. But the things you get trolled for, the harassment you receive is different. It's different. You'll get people come in chat and you know like I will sometimes when I'm live on TikTok, uh people like will try to like role play flirt with me, and I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here playing guitar and hanging out, and I do my best to like de-escalate those situations and not make them like super crazy or like interrupt the flow of stream. But like, having to sort of deal with that like harassment, like someone coming in and being like, "Oh my gosh, are you single? Say ooh woo," things like that or whatever, right? I know I just said it there, but uh that harassment, that toxicity is something that isn't always faced. And also, because you are a faceless content creator as a VTuber, you will get a lot of people harassing you for a face reveal, right? Especially if it's something you don't want to do, and then people keep bringing it up persistently. That can definitely get annoying. It definitely can. I definitely get people asking me for a face reveal all the time. I'm gonna be honest. I don't mind because I sort of get it that they want to know who I am and stuff, right? There's sort of like an intrigue, like, oh, like a mystery, like who is that person? Um, but sometimes, thankfully not for me, but sometimes people will take it like really really far. Like they'll get violent, they'll get rude and crude and be like, show your face, and they'll use some really foul language and stuff. Um, right? And so yeah, you'll definitely get a lot of that if you are a VTuber just for being a VTuber. Not for anything you've done, just literally for being a VTuber. And that can be emotionally draining if you don't have thick skin, and you can't sort of take that sort of behavior, uh, which I completely understand if you can't. Like that's I understand that. Thankfully I've worked customer service and stuff, so like I'm able to like, oh, okay, have a good day, bye. Um, have a good day, goodbye. But that's definitely something that um you sort of had to deal with, and unfortunately, female presenting VTubers do face this a lot more. They just do. Sort of same with like female content creators. It's a whole thing that like unfortunately happens a lot. But I think as long as you're able to sort of navigate that, not take everything negative that is said to heart, being able to filter out things is really important. Constructive criticism is one thing, but toxicity, trolling, and harassment's another. Uh and it is a negative that you will face as a VTuber, especially if you're a VTuber long enough, it will happen. It's not if, it's when. So you have to be ready to deal with that. Now, thankfully, there are things like the ban button. You can just ban, you can time out someone, you can block. And I know that doesn't fix it, right? It doesn't fix that, it like, because it happened, right? The toxicity, the harassment happened. Um, but that's as of right now, that's sort of like the most you can do, right? Um, and so yeah, just sort of, it's a really really big con, in my opinion. It's one of the most, like, all the other cons can be valid if you don't want to do it, right? But like toxicity and harassment for me is the biggest con. Um, like truly, it just is. Now, it's not always gonna be toxic. You're not always gonna be facing harassment. I'm very grateful. I have an amazing community, and they're very kind to me, and I'm forever grateful for them. But sometimes there'll be a random person who wanders into stream, and they're just like weird, you know? They're toxic and they're trolling. And here's the thing, they do it, at least for me, in my opinion, they do it because they want to get a reaction out of you. I just don't give them the reaction. Just block them. That's my best advice for that. Um, you know, hopefully you don't run into it a lot, is what I can say. Um, because it can definitely make people just want to stop being a VTuber. Like completely. So yeah. And then this next one is I think one that isn't necessarily a VTuber exclusive con. It's more a content creator con, but it sort of goes hand in hand with the positive of potential income. Um, being a content creator means that, at least in terms of money, it's going to be pretty unstable, right? Monetary instability is a thing, okay? Especially for independent VTubers, there's no guarantee of steady income. There just isn't. And, like I've mentioned, the VTuber space is growing. It's getting more populated. More and more people are becoming VTubers every day, you know. And so it can be really hard to stand out, especially for people just getting started, right? Especially if they don't have like any previous like experience being a content creator, or any like previous audience or related audience that they can get to join their VTuber endeavors. That can definitely impact people. And so my 2 cents on this con, though, is I firmly believe that you should never be a content creator or start content creation with the expectation of getting super rich. Okay. uh you know I get it. We see like these huge successful content creators, and they've been able to find monetary success. um but they are the very rare and lucky few, uh out of billions, millions, gajillions, trillions. Honestly, probably not that many, but like millions. There are definitely millions of content creators, and not all of them are able to reach that level of like financial success. So if you go into content creation with the sole intention of you know it being your full-time job, it just can't. Not yet. Not the way it is now. I don't know why I said yet. Guys, big change. Content creation 2.0 just released. Just kidding. Uh but yeah, it is pretty unstable, right? Don't quit your day job unless you have some money saved up to do it for a while, cuz it does take some time, okay? It does take some time. It does. Um, if you're able to make income, awesome. Super awesome. I think I'm gonna get into this point a little bit more. I'm gonna talk generally about streaming right now. Um, if your income from content creation comes from your audience, that's super great. That's super awesome. But I'm gonna be completely real. As much as I love my community and I hope they love me, I'm aware that there's gonna be a possibility. Okay, just saying this. I'm trying to like lighten the blow, but full transparency, like your community might not always be there, right? Who knows why, but don't ever you know fully expect all your income from content creation to come from like donations and bits. If you're really gonna get into this, it feels weird to say this because this is something that's like my hobby, right? Was my hobby for so long, is my hobby. Like I love to do this, but also like recently I've realized that like it sort of is like when you think about it, sort of like a business too, right? It sort of is. It sort of is. It's like you're part of the entertainment business, right? When you think about it, the new age entertainment business. And so you have to be aware that business isn't always going to be good. It just always isn't. There's some down seasons. There are some quarters that don't perform as well as others. And so yeah, monetary instability technically is a con. Uh, for all content creators, but for VTubers, right? There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. There never is a guarantee. Um, that you're gonna be doing amazing. Hopefully you do. I wish you do. I wish you nothing but the best. But that is something that should be considered, right? Don't think just by being a VTuber you're gonna get a billion subs because that's just not the case. That's not the case. Um, so yeah, if that's a con for you, that's a con for you. And so again, the cons were time and effort required. It's a lot, right? There's also some technical skill and some equipment that you will need that technically you wouldn't need with other forms of content creation, primarily like non VTuber face reveal stuff, right? Um there's also the pressure to stay relevant and to perform. That can really get to a lot of people. For those who do perform, right, finding a balance of like the character versus like who you are, the creator, is important, right? There's a bit of a balancing act. Also, the like unfair toxicity and harassment you're gonna get just for being a VTuber, right? Like, look, I'm gonna be honest. If you take a lot of things to heart, that for me is a really big con, right? Like it just is. And then the monetary instability is the last con, right? I think those are some cons that aren't always thought of when someone begins their VTubing journey. Now, I know I just ended with all those cons. Um, right? And so you're probably like, "Oh, why? I don't want to deal with all that." But I think you should consider being a VTuber. Okay. Specifically, I think those who are creatives, right? Creative individuals who have a passion for content creation, who want to be content creators. If you love art, right? Animation, character design, things like that, you should definitely become a VTuber, right? You can create a really, really cool VTuber concept, right? Super, super sick. If you love things like gaming, anime, or streaming, you're gonna love VTubing. I feel like you are. I feel right. Like if you already enjoy those types of like content, those types of things, like VTubing can basically be a mesh of them. VTubing, you know, VTube streamers are basically anime characters who are streaming themselves game. Like like that's really, really, it's like a combination of like those three things. So I definitely think you should consider it. Okay. People who are seeking to be anonymous, right? Those who want to create content without exposing their personal identity or face. That's what VTubing is. Now, there are VTubers who do show their face. I might even show my face one day, right? But there are so many VTubers who have never shown their face. Now, I will say this, okay? Not like a con, this little asterisk. there will be lots of people who will try to find your face. Okay. You'll get lots of people asking for face reveals and stuff like that. Okay. You don't have to do it. You don't owe them that. Okay. If you face reveal, only do it when you're comfortable, when you want to, right? When you feel like it. Um, and so yeah, people who want to be anonymous, honestly would love VTubing. It's a really good way to create content anonymously. Um, and also, okay, next bit. I think this can apply with anyone who wants to be a content creator, right? But you got to be a little bit resilient, okay? You just do. Uh okay, there are, like I mentioned in this whole podcast episode, there are a lot of pros and cons. There are a lot. Okay? And so you have to be ready to deal with both of them, okay? Both the rewards and the challenges of like building an online presence. You got to be ready to handle both. Okay? Okay? Cuz you know, it's not like the pros cancel out the cons and the cons cancel out the pros. Like they just both exist. They're both true. And so you got to be ready to, you know, I don't want to say endure because that makes it sound horrible. Take the good with the bad, take the bad with the good. You know, you got to be pretty resilient. Okay. Uh, and so yeah. Now this next group of peeps, if you're watching, I'm not saying you shouldn't be a VTuber. Okay, you shouldn't be a VTuber. Okay, because you can always, you know, find a workaround for these things. But this is who I think shouldn't be a VTuber. Okay, I think everyone should, but this is more like a generalization. Okay, people who aren't super comfortable with technology. Okay, now look, I'm not tech savvy. I'm not the best with technology, right? Okay, and I can tell you, it's pretty hard to like, you know, to get started, especially if you're not good with tech. You have to like, you know, sort of learn. There's a lot you have to learn. Okay, there's a lot you have to learn, and so if you're uncomfortable with technology, you don't want to learn. It might not be for you. It might not be for you. Okay, I hope you would, you know, be cool with like learning how to, you know, manage an avatar, set up a streaming software, you know, how to interact with an audience, things like that. Um, but if it's not for you, it's not for you, and that's totally okay. That's totally okay. Um, those who are seeking instant fame, okay? If you want to become a VTuber because you saw Iron Mouse and you're like, I can do that. I can do that easy. Um, you can't, not easily. Hopefully you can do it. I wish you nothing but success. But VTubing requires patience. It requires patience, it requires consistency, and a lot of behind the scenes work. Like a lot of behind the scenes work. Guys, I am up till like 5, 6 a.m. some some nights, like scripting, writing, editing, and then sometimes I'll be like, no, that video is not good. Scrap it, right? Sometimes you'll put in a lot of work in something that doesn't pan out. And you know, for some peeps that would be enough to make them quit. I probably should have. Just kidding. I hope I no. You know what? I probably shouldn't have and I won't. But you know, there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes in terms of VTubing, right? Like a lot of intricate details that non-VTubers don't have to do, right? Uh Setting the right parameters for your face so it tracks you better. I'm like making a bunch of faces. That's why I was quiet for the podcast listeners. Um right? The getting in contact with artists to commission pieces of art, to commission a model, to commission someone to rig the model, to prepare and set up a debut, to create a sketch, right? There's a lot of behind the scenes work that isn't done on stream. Um and I feel like this goes for a lot of content creation, but there's just like a little bit of extra work for VTubing. There's just a little bit of extra work. Um and so if you're seeking instant fame without work, without patience, without consistency, VTubing is not the way to do it. It's just not. Um, Now this next one is asterisks. Okay, for this next one. Okay, I have a lot of social anxiety when I'm out in public, and I'm a relatively introverted person. Okay, like if I don't know you, if someone doesn't introduce me to you, like if we don't have a mutual friend or whatever, I'm probably not gonna go up and talk to you. And not in like a bad way. I just am shy. I just get nervous. I get anxious. Right? And thankfully, I'm not so anxious that I can't enjoy streaming. I actually really, really enjoy it. But for some, the constant interaction with like chat and like having to be on, right, can really drain your social battery a lot, and it can really make it not enjoyable for some people. Now my thing would be like, hey, maybe stick to YouTube videos only, right? That's that way the interaction is done not live. This is more like from like a streaming perspective, at least this little thing. But for some people, streaming is not for them. So streaming as a VTuber, especially when chat gets super busy, can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming. For some people, who might be really introverted or have like tons of social anxiety. I remember my first few streams, I had like so much anxiety, like hovering over the go live button, and so it took a lot of time for me to consistently be able to go live and get over that fear, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But, if you don't want to do that, if it's not for you, you feel too anxious, your social battery gets drained too quickly and it's not enjoyable for you, VTubing might not be for you. And that's okay. That's okay. And this last one I guess goes with seeking instant fame. But if you're looking for easy income, um this is not it. VTubing is not not easy income. Um, eh, Being successful as a VTuber takes time. It is an investment, right, and a significant effort that is needed from you. Uh, right. It's a commitment. So uh, for someone to reach a sustainable income level, uh, easily, it's hard. It's hard. I have been doing this for 3 years, almost four. Right? To be fair, I did it more as a hobby back then, and now I'm taking it more seriously. But even now, I don't I don't make a sustainable income level. Okay, I just don't. And for me, I do it because I love it. Right? I enjoy content creation, and I want it to be an eventual source of, I guess, sustainable income. I be able to pay my bills at least. But um if that's what you want right off the bat, that's not what you're gonna get. That's not what you're gonna get. Um, unless you're like, you audition for like a corporation agency, like a VTuber agency and stuff like that. Then I guess that's different. That's like the only exception. But you would have to like apply to be a VTuber, like audition, not even apply. You would have to audition, um, to be a corporate VTuber, and even then, that's like a whole different conversation. Um, but yeah, so to go over this all again. People who should be VTubers, okay? One, creative individuals, okay? I think you're gonna have a good time. Fans of gaming, anime, or streaming, you're gonna love it. You're gonna fit right in, okay? People who want to remain anonymous, perfect. This is literally right up your alley. And people who have the resilience to continue, okay? I think you're gonna do fine. I think you're gonna have a good time, okay? Enjoy it. I know the end of this whole thing was kind of like, oh, that's a lot of reasons not to. That's a lot of cons. XYZ, that's a lot of people who shouldn't be a VTuber. But if you do decide to be a VTuber, enjoy it. Have fun. Have fun with it. Okay? Don't focus on all of the negativity. Also focus on the positivity and have a good time. Um, cause it's a good time for me at least, and hopefully for you. And again, peeps who shouldn't are peeps who are uncomfortable with technology. That's totally fine, and that's okay. Those who want instant fame, this is not the way to do it. This is not the key to instant fame. People who have a lot of like a lot of social anxiety and are very introverted. I want you to be a VTuber. I would love for you to test out because I was someone who I would consider should not be a VTuber, right? But I did it and I love it so much. And so I would, to all the introverts and peeps with social anxiety, I say maybe give it a try. Um, and if you don't love it, you don't love it, and that's okay. But I would, I totally understand if you don't want to do it. I totally understand if you do want to do it. Introverts and peeps with social anxiety, this is sort of like a case by case. Air quotes should not. Okay. Um, and then the final should not is anyone looking for easy income. It takes time, it takes effort. It's an investment. VTubing is not easy income. Uh, so yeah, overall, VTubing isn't for everyone, but it's incredibly rewarding for the right person, for the right type of people. Um, I encourage you guys to like really like go back and like, pay attention to the pros and cons carefully before making your decision. Now, here's the thing I want to talk a little bit about is once you're a VTuber, if you decide it's not for you, you can always face reveal. You can always become a non VTuber, right? But once your face is out there, your face is out there. Okay. It just is. So also take that into account with your decision. Okay. Um, Overall, I say do it. I want everyone to be a VTuber. My final message from for this podcast episode is be a VTuber. Try it out. Test it out. Okay. It's not for everyone, but I think everyone should at least try it. I didn't think it was gonna be for me. I was someone who was introverted and I still have a lot of social anxiety sometimes. But streaming is specifically VTubing, streaming as a VTuber has helped me grow, has helped me get over some of my social anxiety. I still have some. Um but it's really really helped me. Let me know if you're going to consider being a VTuber. Let me know. Let me know in the comments down below, in the comments of the podcast on Spotify. Make sure you guys follow me on all my socials. You can go to mellowclub.cool. That's right. MELLOWCLUB.COOL. I don't know why I spelled it so slow. Sorry. You can go to mellowclub.cool for links to all my socials, and make sure to follow me. If you have any questions and I'm live, feel free to ask in chat. I can answer it there. I'll try my best to answer it there. Um and yeah, thank you so much for watching. Before I go, remember that you matter, and in case someone's told you that today, I just did. So don't forget it, okay? Okay. Later. Bye.